So, hey, what's up, everyone? I'm Ashley, and this is Ashley Talks Movies. Welcome to my channel. I'm really excited about this video because I'm going to be doing a review of Spider-Man No Way Home. And because this is a big movie event, I decided to invite my friend Eugene on because he's a huge Spider-Man fan, and we always usually go see Spider-Man movies together or Marvel movies together. And I thought he'd be the perfect person to come on to the channel and discuss this movie with me. So, hi, Eugene.
Hi, I crossed over from another universe.
Yes,
Much akin to this
multiverse,
movie.
right? Um,
Right.
yeah, so really cool. So Eugene is here to talk about Spider-Man No Way Home with me. Couple of things about this video. So the first part of this video is going to be just our reaction slash review of this movie. It won't have any spoilers, so you don't have to worry about that. It'll just be us, doing a quick review of what we thought about the movie. And then the second part of this video is going to be us having a deep discussion about Spider-Man No Way Home. And so that is going to be the part, if you haven't seen the movie yet, that's going to be the part of the video where you turn it off because there will be spoilers. We will be sharing details. We will be talking about specific scenes and characters and things like that. And so if you don't want to be spoiled, that will be your moment to turn this video off. And don't worry, I will make sure I make a big announcement about that. I will warn you before that happens. All right. So before we get into the review portion of this video, a couple things. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Please hit that subscribe button so you can keep up with everything that I'm doing on this channel. I would really appreciate it. And also feel free to jump to the comment section and share your thoughts about Spider-Man No Way Home, but also please be mindful of spoilers, kind of mark it just in case people venture into the comment section for whatever reason and they don't want to be spoiled. All right, so on to the review. So Eugene,
Yeah.
let's talk Spider-Man No Way Home. So really quickly,
Let's.
really quickly, share your thoughts. What did you think of Spider-Man No Way Home?
Oh man. So, gosh, it was just one of those movies when you wake up the next day and you're just like you're still thinking about it. it was
Yeah.
it was it was the ultimate love letter to Spider-Man fans. I mean, and I honestly wanted to say, I've been saying this to a lot of people, but I said I feel like this is what Star Wars, The Rise of Skywalker wanted to be, but Spider-Man kind of did a lot better, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was great. The chemistry between the cast was spot on. I guess it helps when you're as close as some of them are. Uh, and it was dark, very very emotional. The humor was mostly well placed. The beats of humor was great. And man, I think just by the end of it, I walked out of it just so satisfied. I felt that you know it gave the ultimate conclusion to not only this story but many other stories from the past.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I agree with you. Definitely felt satisfied. That's a great description of this. I mean, I really, really enjoyed this movie. I was a little nervous going into it because of all the things that were kind of teased and the expectations leading into it. But I thought it was a very solid Spider-Man movie, and I honestly feel like it was probably one of the best Spider-Man movies ever made. Um, Definitely Tom Holland's best performance as Spider-Man slash Peter Parker. But I also think part of that was because of the depth of the material he was given in this. Just like you said, a lot of emotional beats. There's a lot of dark moments in this. It's a nice blend of humor, action, and I think honestly it showed like a lot of growth with the Spider-Man character for this trilogy that we've had. And I just it was fun. Like it was just a fun movie, which is something I very much needed and definitely loved about this movie. It was just excellent.
And I feel like that's a lot of things we've been missing in these MCU movies. Is a lot of them do a really great job, especially with their trilogies. With the character arcs, but this felt like the most complete character arc because it harkened back to a lot of things from Homecoming, uh,
Hmm.
Far From Home. And like I said, gave you a lot of payoff for these two movies. I feel like a lot of these other MCU movies they pull things here and there, but in a sense, a lot of them feel like they're their own individual movie. I
Hmm.
mean,
Hmm.
I personally I love the Captain America trilogy, but The second one, I still think argue is the best film, as many others would agree. But the third one is basically a setup for the Avengers film, and it doesn't feel as complete as this one does. It just feels
Hmm.
like you just get so much more return on your investment,
Hmm.
for
That
lack of a better
payoff.
term, for that time you spent watching this home series.
This is part of the video where we're going to talk spoilers. We're going to dive deep into this. We're going to talk about specific characters, specific moments. So if you haven't seen Spider-Man No Way Home and you don't want to be spoiled, please stop watching this video. Not that I would ever
Yeah,
want to tell people to not watch my videos, but please stop watching the video. Spoilers ahead.
there are no spells to erase your memory
Yes. We
in
cannot
this
turn
world, at
back
least.
and
Yeah,
redo, like, so yeah, cannot wipe your memory or
yeah.
anything like that. So we will be talking spoilers. So again, final warning, spoilers ahead. I hope they're gone.
Okay.
All right.
So
So
yeah, spoilers.
yeah,
Yeah.
so spoilers. So Spider-Man No Way Home picks up literally right where Spider-Man Far From Home left off. So Peter Parker, his identity, Spider-Man's identity has been revealed. People now know that he is Peter Parker thanks to Mysterio. And this has like ruined Peter Parker's life and the life of his friends and his family. And so because of how much his life is in disarray, Peter seeks out the help of Doctor Strange. And he's like, hey, can you do something to help me? Maybe people can forget that I'm Peter Parker. It's ruined my life. And Doctor Strange's like, all right, fine, I'll help you. And so, but of course, it wouldn't be a movie if things went according to plan. Spell goes wrong. And so now suddenly there's a whole nother set of problems that happen. And that is these villains from other universes show up in search of Peter Parker. And that's kind of where we are. And let me tell you, I mean, some of them had already been revealed in trailers and things, right? Like Doc Ock. But man, like they brought out the heavies for this.
They, they did, and you know what? They got a lot more screen time than I anticipated.
Hmm.
I mean,
Hmm.
I don't know about you, but I was thinking, okay, so and so will get maybe 5 minutes here, a couple minutes there, but it really felt like they gave these villains the right amount of treatment
Yeah,
in
and they
this
and they
film.
really integrated them into the entire story more than just. I guess I was expecting. I don't know if you were expecting. I was expecting like maybe like a gallery of villains where like one would show up, Peter would fight them, defeat it, and then there'd be another villain that would show up, Peter would fight them, defeat. Like I didn't know what they were
Right,
gonna do, and that's not what happened. It was like they all kind of show up different moments, but it's not like they just go away. They're fully integrated into this entire story throughout the entire movie once that happens.
right. Honestly, I don't I couldn't see any other way I'd want them to come into the movie. And what really helps them too is the fact that these characters' histories. I mean,
Right.
if you've seen
Right.
any of the previous films, so it doesn't slow the movie down having to explain. The only explanation you have to do is kind of why they're here,
Right.
or
As
maybe why
opposed
they
to like
look
what
the
their
way they look.
abilities are or anything like that. You can skip
Yeah,
all of that. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
So one of the villains that shows up is Green Goblin, played by the wonderful Willem Dafoe.
Hmm.
He's amazing. Like I mean, we'll talk about performances a little bit later in this video, but like he is so good. I mean, all these years later, like he just right back into the role, and he's like phenomenal as this
Yeah,
character.
and it's crazy. I mean, going into the movie, I said, okay, you're gonna have was I think they have a Sinister Five technically, right? No, not a
Right,
Sinister
right,
Six.
right.
So they have a Sinister Five, and I said, okay, even if all these guys are evil, I feel like Norman Osborn has to be the most evil. It would just be the most necessary thing, and I feel like making Willem Dafoe the most, just the most vile and do the most heinous thing
Mhm.
was appropriate.
Mhm.
As
Yeah.
we progress more through these spoilers, we'll explain why.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so yeah, we have the villains from the previous Spider-Man movies show up. And then of course, the other big surprise is that we have the other Spider-Mans show up from the other movies, Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield reprising their roles. Um, which, of course, I don't know how it was for your screening, but in my screening, the moments that they showed up, collective gasp in the audience, lots of cheers and claps.
Yeah, I went to preview night, which is in the movie world, cinema world, is Thursday nights, right?
Mhm.
I think that's what they call it. So yeah, we were in a packed theater. And I swear, every time something happened, the place would just erupt. It was like a
Yeah.
sporting event. I think there were times when people stood up in their seats and were cheering, and especially
Wow.
during that scene. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of one of the reasons why I like going to particularly Marvel movies on premiere
Mhm.
night. You
Mhm.
just kind of get that energy, and it's
Yeah.
unlike any other experience. I don't even think DC movies have captured that same energy or the atmosphere, but I swear during that scene where as each of the Peters were revealed or stepped into the scene, you could not hear any dialogue. I think I could
Mhm.
read their lips and make out what they were saying, but it was so loud and there was so much clapping and cheering, and you almost got emotional being in the theater too because you're just like everyone knows who that is. I know who
Mhm.
that is. You know who that is. You said you look to the person next to you. So yeah, it. Like I said, it was like a sporting event. It
Mhm.
was incredible and one of the very very akin to what Infinity War was
Mhm.
when it
Yeah.
premiered.
Let's talk about specific moments that maybe stood out to you in this movie. It could be something with the villains or the Spider-Man, or just something within the story itself, that didn't have anything to do with those characters. But any moment that kind of really stood out to you in this film.
Gosh, you have to give me a second. What was one that stood out to you?
So for me, it's two moments, but they're related. One moment, the first moment was the moment that Peter goes to Doctor Strange for his help in making his life better, right? Because it's his identity has been revealed, and Doctor Strange is like, oh gosh, sometimes I forget that you're still just a kid in all of this, and then of course all the things that happen in the course of the movie, and then we get to the end, and Peter Spider-Man makes that decision of, yeah, he's like, erase their memories. Like no one will know. He's like, you do understand that means it'll be like you never existed. Like anyone that loves you will completely forget who you are. And so he has that moment where he realizes it, but he's like, it has to happen. And I feel like those two moments were like such a shows character growth, right? Because in a lot of these movies, like every time Spider-Man's been in the Avengers movies or even Homecoming or Far From Home, like Peter is still a kid, he's a teenager, he still makes these mistakes where you're just like, oh, Peter. Like, but he's still a teenager. He hasn't even graduated high school yet.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
but he's out here saving the world and doing all these things, but yet at the same time, he's still very much a kid. So you get to the end of it and it's like he's made this decision, almost like sort of an ultimate sacrifice kind of thing, where he's like, okay, I have to accept this and I'm gonna make this decision, and that's what it is. And I really love those two moments because it literally sets something up at the beginning, and then you have that conclusion at the end.
That really helps because that actually did help me kind of discover an answer to your question. So the biggest moment for me that I really walked out from with the movie is acceptance.
Mm,
By the end of the movie, we Peter Parker's accepted his role, and I think the theme of this movie is learning to let go, living with the decisions we make, and also accepting our fate, in the universe,
mhm,
so to speak. And I think for so much of this MCU Spider-Man, we've built him up to be basically Iron Man Jr.
mhm, mhm.
By the end of this movie, and by literally giving him a hard reset, we're taking all of that away, and we're coming. Peter's coming to terms with who he is and what he has to be, and
Mhm.
that's Spider-Man. He's no longer Iron Man Jr. He is Spider-Man.
So we talked earlier about um Green Goblin, Willem Dafoe, his performance. I want to talk about the other performances in the movie because I think just well, maybe with the exception of one, I think overall all the performances were very, very solid. And like I said in my intro, I feel like this was Tom Holland's best performance as Spider-Man. And again, because of the material, like there was just so much depth and layer to his character this time around. He had to make some really tough decisions and deal with a lot of loss, and he just knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, and and I think about like shows like The Flash, which got on my nerves because I was so tired of seeing Barry Allen crying and so emotional all the time. But for some reason, I was with it on this ride,
Yeah.
and Tom just sells that. Oh God, when his heart breaks, your heart breaks in this movie.
Hmm. Yeah.
Uh, Even if you know all of the things that are coming, and that is one of the few criticisms I have is you know what's coming. You can tell what's
Yeah.
coming
It's
if you're
a
paying
little
attention, but
predictable.
a
Yeah.
little predictable. But you know what? You know what's going to happen, but you're there for the ride to see how you get there, of course. Um, but man, yeah, he really grew into this role, and I don't know. I feel like him and Zendaya had really great chemistry,
Oh yeah.
and
Yes.
I tried to compare them between that couple between the previous Spider Man films, and it's pretty high up there. I mean, for
Hmm.
teenagers too. Gosh, I
Yes.
mean,
Yeah, it's believable. Their relationship is believable, and so then when things happen, um, you have that emotional connection to those characters and what they're going through because that relationship feels so real on screen. But yeah, both of them did a fantastic job. Again, Willem Dafoe did a great job. Alfred Molina did a great job. Um, I would say
who was your one? Because I feel like I have one, but I don't know if people agree with me.
well, I don't know. Maybe we have the same one, or maybe we have different ones.
Okay,
Mine, the one that I just did, it just felt so out of place in this movie, and I just could not. It
I
was,
feel like I know what you're gonna
it
say.
was grating. It was Jamie Foxx.
Yep, that's who I thought too. See,
I,
it's so strange because I was texting friends and I said, and even talking to Caitlin, and I said, Jamie Foxx didn't feel like he was into it, or like his
or he
delivery
was
was
in a
just like,
different movie. Yeah, his delivery was
yeah,
off, and I know
yeah,
Jamie Foxx is a good actor, and I like Jamie Foxx, and I did not like his Electro in the Amazing Spider-Man 2. But I chalked it up at the time. I chalked it up to him being blue, oh, and having that weird comb over and gap teeth in the beginning, and then
right,
that whole trope, nerdy trope. So I chalked it to the material he was given. I was like, well, Jamie Foxx is a good actor. I just don't know what they were doing with him in with Electro. But now I'm thinking, I just don't think. I think he was just miscast. I don't, because he has enough material in this movie where it should work. He should, but he's not selling it. And every time he would talk and deliver his lines, I was just like, what is happening right now? I don't. It just felt like a
yeah.
different movie, a different
It
beat. It was not working for me. And he,
especially. Oh, go ahead, go
oh,
ahead.
I was just saying, just every time he would be on screen and he would say something, I was just like, it would just take me out of it. I was like, no, I don't,
It
no.
it felt almost literal when they were in those spell chamber prison things. Like it
Oh, mhm.
almost felt like they were literally in different boxes
Yeah, different places.
when they were
Yeah.
oh gosh, even Lizard, the actor who plays Lizard, even some of his
Oh,
line
yeah, yeah,
delivery was
yeah.
a little odd. Like it literally felt like these actors weren't in the same room. They were just kind of filming their scenes in the green screen or whichever. So
Yeah.
it just wasn't the same energy, the same tone of just everything. But yeah, I just felt like Jamie went over his lines. He kind of delivered them, and then
That was
the
it.
crew, the director, whoever said, "All right, that's good."
Marissa Tomei, she's fantastic. Um, so nothing against her. I just honestly hated how they used her Aunt May. It's been something that has been kind of problematic in the previous films, but it was just I felt like more obvious in this one as well. I feel like they cast a younger actress to play May than some of the previous actresses that have portrayed the role, and they just reduced her to the hot aunt.
Right.
And so like literally even with second movies like her and Happy were dating, and in this movie like they've broken up and he has no boundaries, and it was just, and then they didn't, I mean, they killed her off, which was a big emotional moment for Peter Parker, and of course she says the line, right? The
the
line,
the death sentence,
yeah,
basically.
the
Yep.
line.
As soon
But
as you said it, I said, "This is it."
yeah, and I was very sad because I like Marisa Tomei and I like her Aunt May, but I honestly felt like maybe it would have been an even bigger emotional moment had they actually done a lot more with her character in the previous films leading up to that. Like, don't get me wrong. I mean, I was like, like tearing up a little bit.
Right.
Um, but I just felt like I don't know. I just felt like they wasted having Marissa Tomei in these movies.
Well,
I really
what is
killed
Aunt
her
May to
off.
Peter Parker? What is Aunt May to Peter Parker? He's basically his mother. That's his rock. It's his emotional rock. I think
Hmm.
with dealing with the loss of, well, Tony Stark, who replaced Ben Parker, you think his character would lean more on her for emotional support, but
Hmm.
uh, by the second film, she's basically in the beginning and the end, and like you said, she's going through this weird fling with Happy. So they basically made her into a joke. But yeah, I totally agree. I think in the last couple minutes leading up to her death, you were kind of getting those moments where you said, "Yeah, this is the Aunt May that we know." That
That
especially
should
people
have
who read the
been
comic books.
right. That
Yeah,
should have been more prominent in the films. Yeah, like she's guiding Peter. He's asked for advice. She's giving him advice. They don't quite agree on certain things, but that's fine. Um and she's more present. And then she dies, and I'm like, what is
yeah, and
like,
especially with it when you're starting Spider-Man off at an even younger age with someone like a Tom Holland who literally looks like he's 16, um, and he's getting guidance from every character in the universe, from Doctor Strange to Tony Stark to Happy to anyone else in the universe, everyone but Aunt May, and that's a little off to me.
yeah.
Why is everyone his mentor except for his aunt, who, like I said in illustrations, is the number one person he trusts the most?
So let's talk, of course, Spider-Man movie. So we gotta talk action. I thought the action
Yeah,
was fantastic in this movie.
yeah.
Just
What was
great.
your favorite scene? Like
when
by
when
fight
all
scene,
the
I would say.
Spider-Man, all the Spider-Man man, whatever, are like
Yeah.
swinging around. It's like three of them. And the moon is there. It's the night sky. I was like, ah,
It was very WWE, like Royal Rumble, or like
yes, like tag
kind of what we
team,
wanted.
like
Yeah, kind of
yeah,
what we wanted from Civil War too. And the Civil War felt kind of flat with the fights and the visuals, but I think mine was actually honestly the apartment scene.
oh, okay, yeah,
When
yeah.
Green Goblin turns, or when Norman
Hmm.
Osborn turns. Um, Gosh, that choreography was so great, and the fact
Hmm.
you had two different fighting styles. I mean, you had you had Peter, who was very stylistic and creative with the way he fights, and you just had
Hmm.
Green Goblin, who just basically brutalized him the entire time and threw him through a building, which was, I mean, gosh.
Yeah.
And you felt every hit too. I don't know about the theater you were in, but you just
Oh,
felt everything.
yeah. When he was going through the floors, like the
Yeah,
like I was like, ah,
yeah. Or when Peter was punching him in the hallway, and you had Norman look back at him and start cackling.
yeah.
It
He's
was
just
very
smiling.
Joker
I was like,
esque.
oh my gosh,
Yeah, it was
sick
very
person.
Joker esque.
Yeah.
But I mean, even just it was, yeah. I felt like that was, in my opinion, the best fight scene.
Hmm.
And it was this movie definitely had probably the best choreography
Hmm.
as well, out of the three.
Yeah. Yeah. And I really liked that scene. I really liked that scene too. But yeah, that final battle at the end when they all like team up together and they're taking on their like respective villains, and then that final battle between Spider-Man and Green Goblin. It was like, whoa. But yeah, it just great action on it. And what I loved about this movie, because I always had that problem with some superhero movies, is the camera moves too much or things like that, and you can't really see what's happening. You could see what was happening in these action sequences, which was definitely a plus for me because I hate when it's like all jerky and it's like I can't see what's happening, who's fighting who's
Yeah,
punching who, like gets kind of
right.
chaotic. But I appreciated that you could see the action, what was happening. Okay, so we kind of mentioned this at the beginning. We were talking about fan service that
Mhm.
Spider-Man No Way Home delivers a little fan service. I felt like while I appreciated the fan service, I have no problem with fan service. I did feel like there were a few moments that were like a little too much. It was like, okay, I get it.
I totally agree with you. I think one scene that really started getting to me, and I started noticing it a lot more, was the Statue of Liberty scene when
Mm,
all the
mhm.
Peters are waiting for the villains to arrive, and they start having the dialogue.
Yeah.
Peter's like, "Oh, my back," and then they talk about the web shooters, his
It's
organic
like,
web
oh,
shooters.
yours come out here. Oh yeah. And mine is
Yeah, and at that point, I said, okay, like maybe if we had a couple lines, but I think
yeah, that one went on
at
for a
that
little
point,
long too.
yeah, and it felt like a lot of it was a little too much humor and also a little too meta for me. It kind of for me it kind of said, okay, I get it. You guys are acknowledging these things, the memes, the jokes. We get it. We understand.
Yeah.
You know too.
What would have made that scene? I mean, if they had had them pointing at each other, I would have rolled my eyes. Yeah, no, you're right. It's like it was that scene particularly was a little like too much because at one point Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man really says like, "Oh, I'm so guys, you fought all these villains. Like I only had, I want to fight an alien. I'm so lame." He's like, and Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man is like, "You're not lame. You're amazing." And I was like,
Yep, yep.
because
It's
this
that's how you
movie
know it
for
went too
the
far.
Amazing Spider-Man, I was like, and there was another moment too with Connors, Lizard, and when he was talking to Electro in the chamber, the wizard's dungeon,
Mhm.
and he's like, "You look different. Did you get a makeover?" And I was like, because I mean, obviously, like Electro did get a makeover because
Yeah.
that was a
He said,
whole thing.
Did
Because
you
people
fix
were
your
literally
teeth?"
like, "I
Yeah.
don't understand why Electro is blue like
Right.
this," and that was all in like articles and things, and it was very much discussed about. It was one of those where it's like, I get it. I know you're like referencing real world things and
Yeah.
pointing them out, but
It
sometimes
was a
it's
little
nice to
too
not have things so on the nose, like
right.
you
It
know,
was a little too Facebook, a little too meta.
yeah. The movie was good overall. I do think the pacing was off a little bit, particularly when you get to the third act. The third act is fine, but I think, and maybe it's just me, so I'll ask you, but
Mhm.
I felt like that moment where they are getting to the other Peter Parkers, the other Spider-Man showing up, things really slowed down. And I know it needed to slow down because you're gonna have those emotional moments, but to me, like it slowed down almost too abruptly for that
Mhm.
part. And so like there was like a lot of like sort of dragging in getting to the third act. Picked back up, but I feel like it was just that moment where it felt like there's certain parts maybe we could cut or trim down or like tighten up a little bit because it just maybe it was just me, kind of threw off the pacing a little bit.
Are you talking about when they walk through the portal, or when they have their moment with Peter on the rooftop? The Peters
When they're
have their
walking through
moment
the
with.
portals.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, I will say that was kind of tough because the theater was so loud and there was so much cheering. It was kind of
Yes.
hard to even like
Yeah.
figure out what was going on. But yeah, no, I completely agree. Especially when gosh, when MJ's trying to ask Garfield to convince her that he is Spider-Man, and
Right, and they kept throwing the
you go through the
bread, and it was
fear.
like the kid back and forth, and it was like,
Yeah,
okay, like get it, like just yeah, that felt like that was going on too long too. Like,
yeah, and it makes you wonder too. Again, is it the writers kind of in the back saying, "All right, let's pull the brake on this and let's let people soak it in."
hmm
We're getting the Spider-Man, but even if you did do that, what are we getting out of this?
hmm
We're
hmm
getting bread. We're getting bread being thrown at Andrew Garfield, and I can't even remember what Tobey Maguire said because it was so loud. But
oh,
you know,
uh-huh.
even if you're going to slow it down, can you give us some kind of payoff for it? Can you give us a reason why we're having this dialogue and why we're slowing down? Yeah,
hmm
I agree. It didn't feel that way, and then it goes on to them finding Peter on the rooftop, and then that slows down even more. But I felt like that dialogue was worth it, though.
hmm
You
hmm
got a little bit more. You got a little bit more return out of it. So why didn't we? I mean, I almost would ask, why didn't we just cut out the portal scene? Cut it at the part where Ned figures out how to open a portal, but we don't reveal what it is, and we go to the rooftop, and they reveal themselves there.
Yeah, or you
I
see at
don't know.
least maybe one Spider-Man come through, and then like take off the thing, and they go. you're not Peter or something. Cut to, Peter's on the rooftop. Um,
Yeah.
they come hug him and they're like, oh, by the way, there's some people here. When he sees them, and they have that scene where they're like standing, they're like hovering over them, and then they come down and he's like, what? And then you could have had that moment where Peter sees them, like Tom Holland's Peter sees them, and then cut to both of them being there, and the audience go, "Oh," like because he
Yeah.
could have slowed it down, like because he's taking it in. He's just like lost, Aunt May, and he's crying, and his friends are like, "Here's the," and he's like stunned, and the audience is also stunned because you've just
Right.
revealed those, and so that way it wouldn't have felt so slow moving into. I know they wanted each one to have their big moment. I get it. It's fine. I mean, it's a
Right.
minor thing. I'm being nitpicky, but yeah, like
Yeah.
it just again with pacing and timing, it's like that could have been a nice, because you could have had it slow down, but also that could have been a moment where if you want to stop, you want to put on the brakes to have that moment where the audience is like cheering and loud and nobody misses dialogue because people are cheering and it's loud. That would have been a good moment to do it. But so we pretty much went through most of the movie, and the end of the movie is Peter accepts his fate that Peter Parker is no longer going to exist in this universe, um, and that means his everyone that loves him is going to forget that he exists. So I want to know, like, what does this mean for Spider-Man going forward? I mean, obviously Doctor Strange is there. It sets up that whole multiverse thing, and of course he's going to get his movie soon. But it's like, what's next? Like, because I mean, it opens up these whole other possibilities, obviously with the multiverse. But then it's like,
Mhm.
what do you do with Spider-Man and Peter Parker? You know?
Yeah. Gosh, it's crazy because it's I almost feel like this gives a chance for Peter to return to kind of the street level hero,
Hmm.
or at least the hero, much like Daredevil. Um, while it was great to see Peter do all this intergalactic space alien fighting, I kind of want to see this. I kind of want to see the street level hero that is
The
Spider-Man,
neighborhood, yeah, your neighborhood
the
friendly
friendly
spider.
neighborhood
Yeah,
Spider-Man.
friendly neighborhood
Yeah,
Spider-Man. And
because
that was kind of hinted at. Like at the end, he had the like police scanner thing on the app on his phone, and he's like living in this dingy apartment. It's like, all right, I can just be anonymous because he is. Like he's just Spider-Man.
right.
Like nobody knows it's Peter Parker. And he can go out and fight crime and be the vigilante. Um
Right, right. And, because from the moment we're introduced to this MCU Spider-Man, I mean, gosh, he gets thrust into the Civil War immediately. He's 6 months into his Spider-Man career before Tony Stark finds him, and he gets thrust into the Civil
mhm,
War. Then he gets a few months away, or however I think they said it was 2 years
mhm.
between Infinity War or something like that, and then he gets taken to space. Then he gets blipped. There's just so much that happens to Spider-Man, but we don't we don't get to see much of that. We got I want to gosh, I just it's tough because I want to see more of that Spider-Man, but there's also a part of me that says, this trilogy did such a great job, uh, in my opinion, telling a good character arc, developing a good character,
Mhm.
and coming to a conclusion. I almost think, I almost say to myself, do we need more Spider-Man at this point in the MCU,
Or standalone movies? Like,
or even just standalones? Yeah, as apart from appearances here and there.
mhm.
But do we really? What other story is there to tell? That's the big question. I will say though, by the end of this movie, I'm glad that they finally cut the final threads and severed the final threads of Iron Man's legacy. I felt like
Oh,
especially
mhm,
in the past year or two since Endgame, we've gotten so many movies that had a little too many ties to everything that Tony Stark has done,
mhm,
and I feel like by basically severing Peter's relationship with Happy, uh, you know, physically removing any Stark tech from him, it
mhm,
really
mhm.
did bring an end and a close, a very abrupt end, but a big closure to that Tony Stark. Like Tony Stark should have no other reason to have to be in this universe or to matter, I guess, for lack of a better term, to matter in this universe. I don't know what you think
Yeah, no, I
of
yeah,
that.
as I get it, because it's like, every chance. and I get it 'cause Iron Man's one of my favorite characters. And his death was a huge blow, right? It was a sad moment. Like I cried. I cried and when that happened. And I don't cry often in movies, but yeah, it always felt like, something they needed that emotional pull and something it was like, let's mention Tony Stark or Iron Man, right?
Right.
And so now it's like the only person that remembers him, at least in like that connection, is Peter Parker. Like he knows all the things that he and Tony had that relationship. But beyond that, it's not with Happy or anybody else. And so yeah, I feel like that was necessary because it just was like this thing that was looming over Spider-Man and any of his stories was this like you said before, like sort of like Iron Man Jr., like Tony Stark Jr. Um, Probably better like Tony Stark Jr. That they had kind of set him up with, especially in the last movie with the glasses and all the tech.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was yeah. Like you said, it was abrupt, but it felt necessary, so I was fine with it. In credit scene, of course, wouldn't be a superhero movie unless we got some kind of in credit scene. You guys stay in your seats, everyone. So I don't know if you felt this way, but we got that. Well, I guess it was more like a mid credit scene. Got the mid credit scene,
Yeah.
and it was Venom. And I get it because again, it's Sony, right? Sony has the
Right.
rights to Spider-Man, so obviously it's their movie. Because we're talking about MCU and Marvel and stuff, but technically Spider-Man is Sony's movie, because they own the rights. So we got Venom, and I was just like, I
Well, that was
I don't know
pointless.
if you felt about the scene, but I just was like, I don't know, maybe because I
Yeah.
didn't
Well,
really
but
understand what was happening. I don't ever understand what Tom Hardy is saying,
you,
just because
uh,
he's
you
mumbling. I don't know. It was just like, what is this?
I think when what happened at the end, minus what happened at the end, when he disappeared, I said, "Oh, wait, that's it. That's all he has to do in the universe." But I guess it makes sense since he was kind of transported there. But it did kind of leave a little bit of a plot or a continuity slash plot error.
Mhm,
The villains were brought there because they had some kind of connection to a Peter Parker.
mhm.
How did this Eddie Brock have a connection to any Peter Parker if he doesn't exist in the Venom universe?
Unless it's gonna be the next one where they show I don't know. I know that
Yeah,
the little bit was still left there. Um,
right.
I don't know. I have
But
not
yeah,
liked
no,
any of the Venom movies, to be honest, so, I
yeah,
mean,
I think they work. They yeah, they're not great.
no.
They're not great,
Sorry
but
if you
I
like the Venom
do.
movies, anyone out
No,
there,
I
but
I
so
do think
terrible.
Tom Hardy, he knows what movie he's doing, so I think he plays the part very well.
Yeah.
I think he knows this movie is
He
what it
looks like
is.
he's having fun with it, which I'm
Yeah,
no knock against him. The movies themselves are just bad, and maybe we could do a
yeah.
video where we talk about those but yeah. So
But
when
the whole
that
point
popped
of
up,
this,
I was kind of like, "Ugh." I mean, I'm sitting here. I'm gonna stay and sit to the very end, but I
right?
wish it would have been something more than Venom. I don't like Venom.
Yeah,
The
and
movies.
it's crazy because his whole involvement in the MCU was two different stingers in two different movies, and that's it.
Hmm.
I mean, it literally it did nothing except potentially set up a symbiote arc potentially,
Yeah.
but that's it. But I talked to some people about it. I mean, some people really wanted him in the MCU, some people
Hmm.
don't. Kind of what's your thoughts on that?
This goes back to kind of what we were talking about with Jamie Foxx and Electro, and they feel like just I mean, I think Spider-Man works because Spider-Man has been integrated into the MCU, and so there's been that nice balance of his character. Like it's been consistent across, like even the Sony Spider-Man movies that are co-produced with Marvel Disney, and then when Spider-Man appears in the Marvel MCU movies, it's been very consistent. And I just don't think that whatever Tom Hardy is doing with Venom fits with the MCU. But maybe that's
Not at
just
all.
me. And so I like, how would you even put him in there? Um, I
Yeah,
don't know.
and
So I mean,
I
honestly,
always
if he can, I mean, if he stays away, that's fine. I don't. I'm not gonna be
Keep him in the
heartbroken. I mean,
Sonyverse.
again, I don't dislike Tom Hardy. I think he's great. I love him as an actor. I just I don't like the Venom movies and what that whole thing. I just it's not my
Yeah,
thing. Yeah. And then we got that trailer, the Doctor Strange trailer at the end. Did you get the trailer at the end?
I did. Did that feel like I forget which phase one was it, Thor, but one of the phase one movies had a trailer for uh the first Avengers film. Remember that at the end of the
Uh,
I forget which one it was, but I remember being like it was when I don't know how old it was. It was like 2009, 2008,
mhm,
whichever it was.
mhm.
Um, but yeah, it was one of them. I feel like it was Thor. I feel like it was Thor, but it had a trailer for not Infinite War, for Avengers,
Mhm.
and that's what it kind of felt like too. Because it was, I think to me that kind of tells me, okay, this is the. I don't know if this is the official kickoff or the official uh, end of phase four, leading into phase five with this
Mhm.
film. But
Mhm.
man, that movie looks insane, and that's kind of
Yes.
what I want it to be, though. That's kind of what I
Mhm.
want it to be. I mean, I'll get. Let me get you before we go into that. What were your thoughts on
Yeah,
that
I
trailer?
mean, no, I was happy. Again, I was not a fan of the Venom mid credit scene. It's like Venom. So yeah, when we got that Doctor Strange trailer, I was like, ooh, Doctor, because again, I've been watching I watched WandaVision, which obviously, leads it ties into that. I like Doctor Strange. I like the Doctor Strange movies. So I've never had a problem with Doctor Strange. I know some people don't like Doctor Strange first movie.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, it looked amazing. And of course, Wanda is there. And Rachel McAdams is back, which I hope they do more with her character, because that was one of my biggest complaints in the first Doctor Strange movie was like, you have Rachel McAdams, people.
Yeah, you could have
You
cast
you could have cast
person
anyone in the role that
McPerson.
you gave her,
Yeah,
like the what you gave her. And it was like,
yeah,
so I
yeah.
hope they do more. But yeah, it looks just even the visuals. I mean, just look amazing with all the again the multiverse and all the different characters that are there, um and that the whole trippy. That was one of the things too that happened in Spider-Man, was like that whole mind bending stuff
Yeah.
that scene. Yeah, so I'm ready. I'm ready for it. I'm ready for next,
I
more Marvel MCU movies.
I do hope they try different visuals apart from the upside down buildings, because it kind of gives me those Inception
Inception. I was
vibes.
gonna
But
say, yeah, it's very
they've
much Inception.
they've done
Like
that for a lot of
buildings falling into each
yeah,
other and
yeah,
duplicating, and you're like,
they've done that for too many of the Doctor Strange's stuff, and I know they've got someone in that visual department who can come up with a lot crazier visuals than that. But yeah, and and again, it's one of those movies that just feels like if you've been paying attention to Disney Plus shows,
mhm,
you're going to get
mhm,
a little bit of tie-in from that. Especially with that last image we see
mhm,
of
mhm.
the evil or dark Doctor Strange. I forget his official title,
Yeah,
but I
what
think
if from What
the
If?
What If Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
But that's also, maybe that's how we get a tie-in with Rachel McAdams, because we know what that character has been through. So
Mhm,
does that necessitate her character having much bigger role or
mhm.
um, importance in this film because of that character, what that character has seen and gone through?
Mhm.
So, but I could not even tell you what the heck is going on and what's going to happen. There's a lot of, I mean, we can even do a trailer breakdown one of these days. But there's some villains, like classic villains, some like decades ago, that show up. It was that big tentacle monster. Oh, I think I
Uh-huh.
know who that is, but I'd have to do some research. But it yeah, it looks like a fun time.
Yeah.
And then what I was saying earlier, that's what I really want in my Marvel movies now. You spend the first three movies creating as much grounded, I guess, characters as you can, getting people invested in and into this universe you're building,
Mhm,
not a world, but
mhm,
a universe you're building.
mhm,
And you come to such a conclusive end with Endgame.
mhm.
You brought everyone on the journey, you ended it, you're starting a new one. But I feel like this one has to just, this gives you the ability and the room to be as crazy as possible. Come up with the most out of the box literally comic book storylines you can.
Oh, yeah, because I mean, you've
And
got aliens and magic and mystical
yeah,
things, and
but you
the
use sopping
Guardians are
people up
out
to
there
it.
somewhere too. They're gonna have
Yeah,
another
but
movie.
but that was the beauty of the first three phases. Is you soften people up to it. You know, you kind of got their toes dipped into this, what the potential of this world is. Now you have the room to just go way out there, but
Hmm.
also be very respectful of what we established in the
Hmm.
first 10 years of this franchise,
Yeah,
so to speak. So I'm excited. I mean, I just it's just there's just so much that can happen, and
I
I don't even
know.
want to guess. It's just
I
uh
I know. I'll probably be wrong. I'm not even gonna guess. I would be wrong because I'll be like, oh, this,
yeah,
and then I'm like, no, we're not doing that. But yeah, I'm very excited, and like I said, that this was a great movie. This was a nice one to get back. See, I saw it in a theater, and it was nice to have that energy again. And I'm so looking forward to the next phase of MCU. With again with how that last part of this movie was the Doctor Strange trailer. And I'm
yeah,
ready. Yeah, so cool. So you know what? Thanks for joining me here to talk about Spider-Man No Way Home. I really appreciate you coming on because I was like,
yeah.
I mean, of all my friends, I'm like, Eugene, I gotta talk to Eugene about this. Cause again, we didn't get to see it in theater together. Usually we always try to have like that group thing where we like go see the movies together, and we always have those discussions after we leave the theater. We're like standing out in the parking lot, like talking for an hour and a half. Or we're like, all right, nobody else is in this parking lot right now. We need to go home. So I was like, I gotta have Eugene on. So thanks for coming on. I really appreciate that because this was fun
Absolutely,
breaking
absolutely.
things down. Yeah.
Anytime.
So anyway, if you've watched this video and you like to hit that like button, that thumbs up button, I really appreciate that. Also, feel free jump to the comment section, share your thoughts about Spider-Man No Way Home. And of course, be mindful of spoilers because some people might not have seen the movie. So, just be careful about that. And of course, subscribe to the channel so you see more videos like this.